Thank you very much for coming,
Thank you for
Austin.
having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And today, Fanny Anzai interviews Austin Fletchers from Fleccas Talks, and that's very cool. And Austin Fletcher has almost 500,000 subs and trying to tell stories that mainstream media ignores and doing very well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I would like to have one of your wooden spoons here, but unhappily you sold out. So I just put one of mine. It
Uh,
represents.
I appreciate the effort, and I'll try and get you a wooden spoon as soon as possible. When we start making more, I'll get you one from the next batch.
Oh, that's really awesome, dear. I swear I will not use it for cooking. I'll keep it secret here, interviewing people and
Perfect.
spreading our message.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Will be like a part of my device now. I swear.
Everyone's got a wooden spoon at home, so anyone can get involved in media. All you need is a spoon.
Yeah, I was thinking of before maybe I would just like try to print Fleccas talks. I even tried a little bit like here, and I was like, yeah, I could just write it on my wooden spoon, but too little time for too many projects. So first question is, who are you and where did you come from? And tell a little bit us about your story and how did you become
Definitely.
Fleccas?
So my name is Austin Fletcher. I just turned 30 years old. I'm originally from New York. I grew up on Long Island, and I went to school at Dartmouth College where I played football. And I graduated in 2012, and I went to New York City and worked in finance for 2 years. Kind of had like a finance Wall Street job. I did that for 2 years, fulfilled my contract, and then decided to kind of quit my job and move out to LA to pursue comedy and acting and writing and fun, creative stuff. And it was fun. Had some good experiences, made some good friends, but I didn't really get into politics until 2016. And when the election happened, I supported Trump. So all of my friends kind of like were like, I don't know if it's a good idea. You're not going to work in Hollywood and no one's going to hire you. And I was just like, no, like I think this is kind of cool content. And I realized that the right or the conservatives in America were completely underserved in media. So I made my first street video just kind of interviewing protesters at LAX, and it got a bunch of views. And I realized that there is some content that should be made for conservatives as well. And also we kind of need to fight back against the mainstream narrative that all these protesters are right just because there's a lot of them. I think I kind of saw the silent majority staying silent, and we're just forfeiting a lot of the narratives. The Muslim ban, the wall, even abortion. A lot of these issues, we're just kind of like, oh, we don't want to, we don't want to ruffle any feathers. We're the silent majority. We'll kind of just stay quiet and not, bother anybody. And that I thought was a huge problem, because when you do that, the left kind of takes every issue and runs with it. So I decided to go out and kind of confront the protesters and not give them automatic credibility like the mainstream media was doing. And the first few videos were like really funny and crazy. People were saying ridiculous stuff. And if you're on the right, the videos are entertaining. If you're on the left, it's kind of embarrassing. If you're a liberal, you want to separate yourself from it. And if you're apolitical, just watching it kind of makes you wonder what's going on and like, oh, maybe I should pay more attention to politics. Maybe I should know what the answers to these questions are. And I think my theory is if people who are apolitical get involved in politics, they'll actually trend further to the right than they realize. Because right now, if you're center or center left, I think you're more conservative than you are a leftist. So that was kind of like the science behind the videos and what the goal was. And I've been making a bunch of them, and it's been 3 years, and it's been really cool. I've been really well received by the right. Everyone's been really cool. Politics obviously is getting crazy and in the forefront of everyone's mind. So I think going forward, the future is like a politics and entertainment hybrid of like the news. So I think like accounts like us, like media accounts that are based in personalities too, are kind of like the future of entertainment and news put together.
I was going to ask you, like, if the channel was old, like it shows in the channel, like 2012, but you just said that it's like just 3 years from now. Uh, and did you get the more popularity with more after Trump? Like, was Trump the big thing that you prompt? prompt you up? Like,
Yeah, so I had a YouTube account since 2012, but I've only uploaded like before the Trump videos and before the protests and the rallies and like the politics-based videos. I only uploaded I think like 5 or 6 videos, and they never got more than like 1,000 views. They were like very low views. It was just kind of like me like learning how to edit. Like I made one video that was like a Miley Cyrus song over a Slipknot music video. It's like a really crazy hardcore band with like a Miley Cyrus song. So I learned how to edit that way, where I can like make the music video work for the song. Before these politics videos, I would have my mom like watch on her cell phone, her iPad, like my dad's phone, their laptops, just so I can get as many views as possible. But then once I started making videos that really related and resonated with an audience, I kind of saw that natural growth in viewership I was hoping for.
where did the Fleccas and the spoon came from? And the very cool,
Um,
was this like all personal stuff that you input in there?
yeah, kind of. In college, I had a friend named Zach who was a football player on the team with me. And we went out one time and, we got kind of drunk. And he texted me and said, "I love you, Fletcher," my last name. But he wrote it wrong. So "I love you, Fleccas." And the whole football team started calling me Fleccas after that. So it's an old nickname from college. And then for the spoon, I picked spoon because I have an Italian mom. And growing up, she used to kind of, whack me with the spoon a little bit, threaten me with the spoon. But it was like a structured upbringing. She was a very discipline-based person, but she was very smart, and it was a good structured upbringing. So I use wooden spoon now as like a joke with her. And also, I think like the protesters never really had that kind of structured upbringing, because if they did, they wouldn't be, protesting, having a tantrum in the street.
And then end up like coming out just to ask people, and that was a little bit about why Trump is not that bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I kind of mentioned it before, but I was realizing that right now the media wants everyone to think that it's left versus right. It's Democrat versus Republican. Which team are you on? It's very tribal. But I think that liberals liberals have more in common with MAGA Trump people than I think liberals have in common with leftists at this point. And I think that the biggest trick being played on, especially the apolitical people in the middle who aren't paying much attention to politics, who are just casually scrolling on Twitter, listening to celebrities, a huge chunk of people, I think the trick that's being played on them is they think, oh, I'm center left, I'm a Democrat, but they don't realize how much the political spectrum has shifted just in the last few years. So my theory is to be in lockstep with the narrative from the left right now in the mainstream news, you have to think that Trump is, the next Hitler. He's going to put us in camps. He's going to get World War III. He's racist to all these people, and you have to give him like the worst intentions. But I was realizing that if you ask people, what's something good that Trump has done, Trump's not that bad is the quote I use. If you can get an everyday person to admit that Trump's done something good, anything, they're not going to be progressive enough for the leftist mob anymore. And they're going to kind of become political refugees, and it's going to kind of wake them up. So if you have someone who says, oh yeah, like 6 million new jobs, that's a good thing, undeniably good. Now the leftist mob is not happy with them because they're like, saying Trump did something good, and you're not allowed to do that and be in the mob. So my goal is to kind of wake people up by showing them how high the political stakes are and how fair one of the sides is being. So if you want to be a leftist, and it's like an everyday person can't say that, North Korea de-escalating their nuclear capabilities, like if you can't agree that that's good, then it's like what kind of team is that to be on? Like I don't, I want to be fair, I want to be rational. I think the everyday person wants to be fair and rational, and the media is trying to convince us that we're all very far left or we're all very far right. So I'm just kind of trying to have everyone realize we're all in the middle. Trump's not that bad. Like in that alone, I think is kind of like the antidote to the fake news in a way.
Definitely. Yeah, the Trump is not that bad. I love the videos mainly because like when you bring sometimes some facts or even confront the people with whatever they believe, that's normally some straw man of what the mainstream media have created of Trump, painted like him very evil and bad. And you bring facts back to these people, they are very skeptical when, when you bring, they like, oh, I'm not sure, I never heard of this. But when you ask them, like, but where is your fact, your whatever you believe come from? They're like, oh, I heard from someone. So it's like it's not the same. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
This is Shiva, and yeah, sometimes she shows up the videos. Yeah, she's shy at the first 2 minutes or so. Well, I'll have to edit this out anyways. Trump is not that bad. That is what we're talking. And I was trying to say about I watched some videos when you like talk to people and they like, oh, Trump is bad, and you ask like, why? And let's give one of the examples like, oh, the he is sexist. He talks about grabbing woman by the pussy, for example, and then you bring up that this was a something that he said in private, cut out of context, that he was talking about specific type of woman that you know that exists, and then they like very skeptic. I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know about this. It's like, wow, how did you know the first thing? Oh, I heard from someone. It's like, and heard from me, or even you take a video and show these people, and they're like, um don't know, it's funny or sad. I don't know how you feel when you bring up some facts and people are very skeptic about facts instead.
Yeah.
And they're not the same way as whatever they heard on the streets that made they hate Trump, for example.
Yeah. And it's, I think, especially in LA, the people are, I don't know if it's more selfish. I think they're more selfish, or maybe it's just the younger generation in general. They're focused on themselves, but they'd rather like outsource the thinking they need to do for politics to the celebrities. So if like LeBron James and Taylor Swift and, you know, all the people at the Oscars all trash Trump, they're like, oh yeah, like those are smart people, those are rich people, they're successful, they're on my side. Like I don't have to pay attention to politics. I can just kind of listen to what Leonardo DiCaprio says. So I think that's a huge thing. And then when you tell them like, here's the real facts, it's like the whole current of people or like salmon going in one direction, and like that requires them to like pivot and go the other way against the tide or against the masses. And that's like a hard thing to get people to do. And it's just so much easier just to like blindly float downstream with everyone else.
It's funny in this way that they also believe that why these famous rich people are on their side more than Trump, that actually took the job, to make it better. And I think I'm always talking about this, about like the assumption of like how can you assume that you know what why Trump is rich and bad and those famous people are rich and good. And it comes all to charisma and fame. Some people just love listen to whatever famous people and follow their whatever instructions and with style of life. And I'm like, but if rich people that are rich are interested in doing better for these people, and they are actually not doing more than to themselves, those famous people, give a chance to Trump that actually took the job to try to, pilot this wreck ship to
Yeah.
whatever. He actually has made it better. And I think that is one of the points, that is not just saying that he's not that bad. He has showed with results, to even change a lot of people that were against him to his side. And maybe that is why let's not say that. Is Trump gonna win this year?
Yeah, I think he will. And I totally agree with what you're saying too. It's like in the beginning, they used to be able to say, oh, Trump's going to do this. He's going to do that. He's going to do this. Now it's been almost 4 years and he's done a pretty good job. So it's like there are results now. And I totally agree with you. The good person, the good rich person in Hollywood is better than him. And meanwhile, everyone hates him now. They go after his family. They're trying to sue him all the time. They're trying to just completely destroy him. And it's like, he didn't have to do that. I think that will wake a lot of people up as well. And yes, going into 2020, I think he will win. It's going to be crazy because the left is going to have the same problem with Bernie all over again. He's going to get snaked by the establishment. He's not been doing the best showing wise. Like he's probably legitimately going to lose, but they're going to have that same like feeling of giving into the establishment again. They're not going to be happy.
Yeah, I think I see something like I don't want to be pessimistic. I'm always trying to be optimistic, but I see people freaking out right now, and we know what happened from the election before, and I think I kind of see why they're going to fail, but apparently they themselves, the Democrats, don't see that. It's like they wanted Bernie, and then they did not give people what they wanted. They wanted Bernie in the election before, and they did not get it. Now they are going to give him, but he was not strong anymore like before, and that's why they are going to lose. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh yeah, coronavirus is making our lives crazy. Babies are all at home, so we're not gonna have a normal interview. Oh, you can have that if you stay in the bedroom, okay? Oh, can you cut it? I'll cut it. I'm sorry again.
No worries.
Yeah, this corona is not something that people are going crazy around here. I don't know about whatever you are, but
Where do you live?
I live close to Vancouver in Canada.
Oh, okay.
And around here, people are not going crazy, and people are very actually reasonable here. Uh, doesn't seem to have more than the first week when the toilet paper and everybody was going crazy, and we have a big Chinese population around here. Yeah, we felt like I've heard people saying that went to buy toilet paper and they were low in the shelves, but I did not see any need to go there and buy, I don't know, more than what I normally buy for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
even if it was 2 weeks. I don't understand why people would buy like 10 packages of it. So I did not go check what's going on. And I went to office and do stuff that I normally need to do, and people look to be living normal lives. Uh, the daycare where my daughter goes, everybody got really sick and cold this week. And since we have traveled recently, and other people from the other families have traveled recently, everybody's isolating themselves in their house, and we
Uh,
have the baby at home, and it makes everything crazy.
yeah. Everyone's
But
freaking out down
I'm
here
a
too.
physician, and I've tried to like not make any video about corona, because every time I try to talk about anything that is health related, then a lot of people come to attack me, or even to like dismiss my credentials. And I was like, you know what, it's not what the channel is made for. So I like the interviews, let's keep doing it and try to keep corona like into normalize. I understand the isolation is necessary for people that could be sick and have it, and for the people that more important than that, that have contact with old people. Our family, even being like a little cold, and my daughter had like some ear infection, we're not doing crazy measures because we don't have contact with old people. So at least we are okay. My husband
Yeah.
has to go work, and he works in a very busy restaurant, two McDonald's restaurants that has like a huge movement of people all the time. And well, we still don't go crazy, because even if we have as young and healthy, we know we're not in high risk. So like it just try to keep the spreading low,
Yeah.
and don't need to like buy supplements for like 2 years. Or I don't understand what is the idea. I think it's a little bit of the hysteria of the people that don't understand the news, or and maybe the news are going a little bit over, like talking too much about it, and
Yeah.
maybe that's the scary part.
I think that's definitely part of it because the news loves to scare people like that. That's their whole thing, especially with like storms, like a hurricane, or they love to just make it all about that. I think that's kind of what this is. I don't think it's as bad. It's like I'm treating it like the regular flu. Like I'm washing my hands a lot. I'm, staying away from older people, but I'm personally not worried about getting sick or anything like that. It doesn't feel like a threat, which maybe is a bad way of looking at it. But
No, I think one of the things, I talked to some friends, because I have received a message these last days, sometimes like with videos of people and audio of radio, instructions coming from different sources, and people come to confront me like, one of my friends sent me a message asking me like if she's sleeping all by herself in the bedroom and she washed her hands up before going to bed. When she woke up, she was feeling like she really needed to scratch her nose or something like that, had an itchy nose, and she asked me if she needed to wash her hands again before touching her face. And I was like, well, if there is nobody like secretly coming to the bedroom and watching you while you're sleeping, I think it's safe,
Yeah,
like. And
someone
now
coming in.
I was like trying to understand what makes her believe that. And I was like, okay, so people actually believe that there is a cloud of virus that actually has an active movement that moves by itself as an agent, that actually goes and contaminate people. And it's like, okay, we need to go back and understand that people get scared and afraid without understanding, or they create, in their idea how the things work. And that is scary, in fact. So maybe we should, like, when we talk so much about one thing, maybe we should use those chances to explain better what is to wash your hands more often. And it's like, it's
Mm,
not wash your hands every 30 minutes and use the alcohol and gel, because there is a need for that and should be used like maybe in places where you have clients moving so fast that you're going to have to contact two three people at the same time, or maybe in a row, and you're not going to have time to wash your hands in between then, and you're actually touching same objects, and touching sometimes the person, as doctors or clients like that, massage therapists and people that actually have closer contact. So we actually have to keep the alcohol in gel for these people, for those professionals, for these people that have to keep this contact and have higher risk, instead of everybody use mask, everybody use gel all the time, and then we don't have supplements. And also about the supplements, I think there is a little bit of the scary idea of like that they will just stop producing and we're not gonna have anymore. Like, we have an economy big enough that, like, even if we run out of toilet paper on the shelves today, tomorrow it's gonna have more. So there's no reason to panic and try to really stock things like that. And maybe the media should talk like that. It feels like patronizing people, infantilizing people too much. But I think if you're gonna talk so much, maybe go to the basic instructions and explain people like the washing hands is before eating and after you go to the toilet, or before manipulating food, or when you change you come from the streets and you actually went outside and you touch places, you went to the supermarket, you made groceries and stuff. But if you're home, you in your same environment, everything like there's nothing coming through the, oh, I open the window and there is a wind coming and bringing me the virus. Like, that's not how viruses move around the environment, you know. And I don't know, it sounds silly, but if you go through the way that people are behaving right now, we should maybe talk like that, and make them understand that it's not like so scary. Even talking about like if you're young family and you don't have contact with old people, you, you, you don't need to run to the hospital every time you feel like a runny nose or a cough or sneeze, because you could just have a normal cold. And when you go to the hospital and agglomerate the hospitals the way that they do now, like I sneeze, go to the hospital to get coronavirus tests.
yeah.
People love doing that in Brazil. But normally it's for dengue that you actually need the mosquito to bite people that are infected and then bite you. So the conglomerations in the hospital don't increase the spreading. But in case of corona, yes, you go with a normal flu to the hospital and then you come out with the corona. So
Yeah.
yeah, stay home,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have the symptoms for testing, like mainly the fever. And it's like, because you're gonna have cold, you're gonna have like a sore throat and runny nose, sneezing and coughing from influenza virus. It is a little bit more scary than the influenza, okay, but it's not so scary as the swine, for example, the
Mhm.
H1N1. uh, so I think there is a lot of to talk. Like, of course, the professionals are always trying to reduce the spreading, so the isolation would help, and the normal basic routine. But it's funny how like normal people just come out with those videos talking about like wash your hands and don't have contact with cold, like close contact with cold and sick people. And it's like, wow, that is like the normal day life.
Yeah.
It should not be
Wow.
something that
Mind
we
blowing.
implement in our life right now.
Yeah.
Just
What a
say
good
like,
tip.
okay, doing that, start doing that. That is the way. And I've talked to a friend that she's journalist, and she was mad at me saying that is sensationalism from the media or hitting too much of on this. And she's like, what about you? And it's like, wow, I'm a physician. I always worked with close contact with sick people. I did not get cold. I did not get sick from having contact with sick people. And I'm not a crazy, I'm not fan of alcohol in gel specifically. I don't like it. I don't like personally. And I think it's a bad culture. It's just commercial. It's just to sell it, just to
Mhm.
make like people with smelly hands,
Yeah.
smelly bacteria around. It doesn't really kill the bacteria, it just paralyzes. And the virus are not all the virus that are killed. We don't even know if it actually kills corona. So I don't know. It is a lot of myths that people jump in the opportunity of capitalizing. I think like the people that I'm gonna go buy a bunch of alcohol in gel and then sell for more expensive. As a they're
Yeah.
gonna still making alcohol gel and in the normal price. You're probably gonna get stuck with a lot of alcohol gel in the end.
Yeah. And the media is going wild on it, and it's like it's really affecting things now where like they have mandatory closings of restaurants and bars in LA. Here it's like you can't going out to eat, it's like a lot more quiet, a lot of restaurants are closed, and like that's gonna a few weeks of that and a lot of businesses are gonna close, a lot of restaurants won't open back up after that. And it's kind of like what comes first, the actual need to do the quarantining or the media hitting the people, scaring them, and then the quarantining being the result of that fear. So it's like if we
You-
had hit them appropriately, we wouldn't have to do this kind of stuff. And now like I'm going to take a big economic hit because the media scared everyone, and then the local governments felt like they had to do something to ease those fears.
yeah, I don't like to just throw a bunch of ideas like this, but I've even have said like, what is the point of the media scaring people? All this year has been very focused on like take the whatever is the scary news, like the climate change with Greta Thunberg and everything was the first crazy,
Mm-hmm.
I think, circus of the year. And then they come with this, and I was trying to preview the next. That is going to be when Trump wins the election, and then
Yeah.
they are going to try to find someone to blame for collusion. Might be China of for doing this. So maybe
Yeah. Or who
I
knows?
don't
Maybe
know.
the
Maybe
election gets
Trump doing all
postponed.
this peace around the world, making friends with China, end up causing this, and they will say like something. But also, they don't see that. I don't know. Maybe the media wants to scare people and make the economy go bad again, because
Yeah.
we
Oh
have
yeah.
been happy, with Trump, all the Trump's efforts. We got in a good economy for United States, and of course, all this recession that we entering with just stop the planet. That I actually don't feel that is that necessary. I don't think should be a decree. I don't think should come from the top down. I don't think should be like you stay home or you're gonna go to jail. I don't support this type of government, this type of power. I don't think we should give them, politicians the power to make this type of decisions. I think the government is there to support people and protect, of course, but the protection is on the way that will not infringe in our rights, in our freedom. And that means like I talk about this a lot in Brazil about traffic laws and how they fine people for every single stupid reason, and with the excuse they are trying to protect lives. And I think like, wow, if you want to put signs, like spend the public money in putting 30 signs before a turn that is dangerous, and we see statistically there are a lot of accidents, I'm totally for it. But I don't agree with fining people if they choose to go fast in that turn. In the same
Hmm.
way that I think we should advise people to stay at home and try to reduce the spreading of the disease right now at this moment. But I don't think we should put police on the streets to put people in jail if they decide to go home, to go outside. I think that is going too much on the authoritarian
Yeah.
spectrum of politics, and it's scary.
Oh, definitely. I totally agree with you. And we're seeing it in LA, especially with all these, like, Gavin Newsom is like, shutting down the schools. I think he said the other day that the schools might not open up for the rest of the year or something. So like they really are taking it seriously. And it just seems like a coordinated effort, to be honest. It seems like the media is using this as like an opportunity. And you kind of mentioned it before of like, why is the media trying to scare everyone? I think it's just like ever since they went to the 24-hour news cycle, they've had to like compete in an entertainment sense against each other. Because when I was younger, I would watch 10 o'clock news at night, local news, and it would be, the sports, it'd be a fire, a murder, a happy story, and then like the weather, whatever it was, it's local news. But now it's like everything has to be this hyped up thing, like this big finale. So they're committed and they're competing with each other. And every time they lie and get exposed, their audience shrinks a little bit and people trust them less. And it makes them lie and stretch the truth even more to still be competitive in the entertainment sphere. So I think that's kind of what it is, where it's like the people who can scare you more, the audience watching, if they're not fully like woke, they'll be like dependent on that source of fear. Like it feeds them and they'll keep returning to it, telling me like, what should I be scared of next? And it's really just about the mindset of the masses of the people in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I was thinking when you're talking about all this film create, like, I even have talked to some people about, like, I think it's like a planetary domestic psychological terrorism. It's complicated because there's a lot of things, but it's but all these concepts together, because we talk about this all the time. It's like, yeah, it is a scary moment, but I think it's more like the media trying to scare people. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually don't know what is their purpose of doing this. I think sometimes it's just like you said, it's just like trying to measure their power, like the way they talked about after the elections, that they thought they could manipulate people's minds and they saw they didn't do it. In Brazil, I've seen them doing this mainly in politics, because we know the polls that they talk on TV. We cannot trust that. That's not real. It's more like they know people will vote for whoever is winning, so they say this person is winning, and that's how end up with like, wow, this person lost and we thought he would win. Like, yeah, because the media was lying. They were trying to manipulate us in that way. That has happened there. That is what happened in United States in the election before. And I don't know what's going to happen in the next one, but I suspect Bernie or whoever comes will not win just because the Democrats are not together. And they are not together just because they hate each other, because they are bad people. No, I think it's because their politicians present things that they are already against each other. So they cannot take the other guy's side, the other option on the same party. What I actually think, it is good as community to not be partisan, because what happened in Brazil is people were really left or right, and they still left or right, even with so much corruption, with even with all the bad things that show up. People still like, oh, I'm just lefty, and doesn't matter, I will, if I don't like that politician, I will still support the party. And the fight became really just polarization in two parties, and that is bad, because then we even have other options in Brazil, many other options, and they don't get strong because people just feel like, oh, the only ones that are going to win are the big ones. And I think in the United States, people need to break out of the left or right, Republicans and Democrats, and try to go to a next level. Maybe I'm libertarian. I'm probably not a proper libertarian, but I like their ideas and I support smaller governments than what we have today, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with you. I think, yeah, just like you said, left versus right, it's so limiting. But I think if, like for in the United States especially, if we focus on the apolitical people and splitting them up into leftist, liberal, or on the left side, we can focus there. It's like I think that leftist side is not is is very loud, but I don't think it's very popular. So I think if we can like separate the liberals from the leftists, then America will kind of be left versus right again, like Democrat versus Republican, and then the leftists will be like the same communists and socialists we've kind of like had our eye on for the last 50 years. You know what I mean? How like we've had trying to keep the commies out, that kind of thing. I think that will it'll go back to something like that hopefully one day once people can kind of realize the distinction between leftist and liberal.
Yeah, maybe that is even the reason why Bernie cannot win, I think, because he is too commie.
Yeah, and it's like we've been
It's
calling
too
it out. We've
scary
been
for like the Democrats that are more reasonable. They know it's a bad trap, and
yeah.
I see that as a bad trap. I think all the populist governments or proposals for government in the United States to give money away, to socialize more, to this narrative against the capitalism, against the corporate. I am against corporativism. I am against the politics and the corporations get together and start benefiting and helping each other. I'm very against lobbies, but that is one of the things we need to talk, because it's a problem we have in Brazil. We have like lobbies, or to be a lobbyist, it is a profession. And I was like, who the hell? This is just so wrong. This is just so against the free market capitalism that we never can say that we have a proper one down here. So if nobody comes to break that thing down, we cannot call it a proper capitalism. We cannot keep blaming capitalism for our unsuccess, because in fact, it is a problem of the politicians masking their policies into narratives like that are not proper. And I think even Bernie is like, if it comes to power, and it's like, what are you gonna do next? It's gonna be like a roller coaster, and it would be
Mm-hmm.
like end up really bad for United States. So I think the good and the bad examples, like people talk about Nazis. Yeah, Nazis are bad, and we should not erase them from history, because we keep them on the wall to know what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that
Exactly.
is what I think United States should do. It should look down South America and see, like, for example, Obamacare is not a good thing. We have the SUS in Brazil that is actually, I would say now, knowing a little bit better, I think it's even better sometimes than the Canadian
Mm-hmm.
care system. But there are things that we should implement in Brazil from what they have in Canada, and definitely Obamacare. See as examples of other socialist healthcare. Don't follow, don't do it. you know
Yeah,
Private is
exactly.
always better. And no, and my point is like, all these things that the government thinks that it needs to take care of other people's lives will be taken care with others people's monies, and that's why I'm just
Yeah.
so against it. Like, there is no freedom on giving people's things. You just taking others people's freedoms and rights, and stealing money from other people that have nothing to do with this. I think money should be on the people's hands, and I think that is the idea of Trump, and that's why I support him, because I think the money should be on the people's hands to do more, to give, to even give more for charity, and to be able to help people in other ways. I think, like, if you open a business and you give a job, is much better than you give charity. So I think
Yeah.
that's one of his ideas. And as an investor and a no before politician, he's doing a great job, as I would preview, because all the other politicians, they don't fulfill their promises, and Trump has done the opposite. And that's another point for him not being a politician to start.
Yeah. It's like a big game for them. All they try to do is just get reelected, and once they're in, they just try to stay in their seats. And you touched on this before. I totally agree. It's there's like the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, like the very elite that kind of run the world. They're the ones that are trying to make everyone go, oh, it's left versus right, or it's man versus woman. Men are sexist, women are, need to be elevated, or it's black versus white. These people are racist against these people. And they're just trying to have us fighting each other in all these different ways, just so we don't notice the actual problem is like the information being given to us. Right? I think there's going to be a big wake up, I think, this year in 2020, especially with this coronavirus stuff. It's like an opportunity. Like the media is scaring everyone, and if they're telling the truth, fine. But if a few months from now we find out there's been some inconsistencies or they were manipulating things just to scare people and get more clicks, I think that'll wake a lot of people up too.
Yeah, I think so. Yesterday I was watching something, and like the way that they deliver is the thing that I think has all this psychological thing input. I don't watch mainstream media, but sometimes I end up like YouTubing something from the mainstream media to see what the people are consuming and why people are so scared. And I think I understood because like just last night they were talking about the situation in, I don't think it was in Spain, but anyways, I have friends in Spain, and they were talking about Europe, and the point was like, look at this place. Was that Portugal or Spain? That's like the third most cases number of coronavirus, and it was like 3,000. And I was like, okay, so if the third most is, is scary when they say the third most. Like, so I was just calculating. Okay, it's a small country and a lot of people sick, but talk about this way, the third most, and then you take the number. Is 3,000 is not that much. I'm sorry. I'm a doctor. I know 3,000 people is a lot of people, but just being realistic in numbers is like not that scary. And one thing that I have even talked to my friend was like, I see that people say those big now, the third most, 3,000. And I was like, okay, what about the percentage? And they like, oh, use the biggest numbers they can find as well. I was like, 18% death. And it's like, okay, what about talking about the underestimated number of cases? Because we know that we're just taking tests and calculating and diagnosing mostly people that go to the hospital, and then they feel really bad, really sick. So everybody that is asymptomatic or have low symptoms, oligosymptomatics, they are not even being diagnosed. And the denominator number on this percentage is being underestimated a lot. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why the numbers of that, those percentages are so scary. And I would like to see more people talking about this on the TV and trying to educate more the population how to really wash their hands, when to do, or use the alcohol gel, than just talk about big numbers and say like people are scared in this place, because this type of news, yeah, they are scary. And they don't
Yeah.
actually teach people nothing.
And then they go crazy. The media goes crazy when Trump tries to maybe kind of keep everyone calm and say, "Oh, it's like the flu. Like, don't go too crazy. Just keep your eye on it." And they're like, "Oh, how can he do that? He's underplaying it." And then they scare everyone even more, and they just keep like trying to change the playing field,
Yes.
us against Trump now.
I have to give that to the politicians, because I keep talking about how I don't like the way that they are using the power, but I understand that there is a lot of social pressure on, you guys have to do something, and if they don't do anything they are bad because they should have done something. So they are trying
Mm-hmm.
to avoid that. They are trying to protect themselves from this type of accusations, and it is a really difficult balance to get, for sure. This definitely is really hard to get. uh, I would like to ask you, like, what about your encounters as like, have you seen anybody? Because I've seen videos of yours that you ask the person like, what is written in the sign, or why are you here? And the person says like, I don't even know. I was like, are those like you have suspect that these people are like professional hate, like professional haters or professional
Mm-hmm.
uh protesters? Because there is such a thing in Brazil. And what is your experience?
Yeah, so there is a group called Refuse Fascism, and they're at every protest in LA. I think even all in California, and they have money behind them. They're paid to be there. They're paid to organize. They have like a budget and stuff. But in the beginning, one of the reasons I got involved was because my friends I was living with, they were going to the protest. They were making a sign. This was the first one I went to, and I was like, "What's the sign for?" And like, "Oh, we're going to protest Trump for the Muslim ban, whatever." I said, like, "Okay, like why?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know. We want to hang out with some girls we met last night." So they went out to a bar the night before and met some girls, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go to the protest tomorrow," and they're like, "Oh, we'll go too." So then I kind of realized like a lot of these people are just like using this as a social excuse. I wrote like an opinion piece like right away that was like protest is the new brunch, because it was like a Sunday thing. Everyone hangs out and they have like a little community around it. But in the beginning, a lot of people were there and really had no idea, Trump, because they weren't expecting to get confronted. So they'd be like, "Oh, I'm here because Trump's racist. He needs to be impeached." I said, "What did he do racist?" And they'd say, "Oh, I don't really know offhand." I would get a lot of those, and a lot of people that didn't vote too for like the same reasons, just not really there for the right reasons. But yeah, there are paid protesters; those are the organizers. But the masses of people that used to attend, like those numbers are decreasing every month, and now it's zero because of the coronavirus. But so business isn't that good right now. But but
There are no many protests.
yeah, not many protests coming up, but the people the numbers of like public willfully attending, that engagement has definitely gone down. That the passion there has definitely gone down, and now we're back to the usual organized paid protesters. So yeah, there's been definitely a decrease, because in the beginning it was kind of cool to protest. It kind of was like a fun thing to do. Everyone felt like they're on the right side. But then slowly over time, I think people realized that not every Trump supporter is racist. Not every, Trump isn't necessarily racist. Like, they're seeing skewed media presentations of it. I'm sure people meet Trump supporters in their lives, and it kind of like breaks the stereotype and breaks the narrative a little bit. So the more we're exposed to Trump, the more we're exposed to Trump supporters, the easier it'll be for people to kind of come around to him. I think that's always been the problem. It's just the silent majority didn't want to get involved. But the more you get involved, the more we're able to show our ideas, have people, rational people, hear them, and also show the diversity on our side too. Because in the beginning, I had people call, white supremacy, you're anti-Semitic, whatever. But now I have videos of people saying like Candace Owens is a white supremacist and she's black. Like, Ben Shapiro's a Nazi and he's Jewish. Like there's a lot of like, that doesn't really work for them anymore. So the more they see the diversity, like the less their blanket labels and attacks kind of fall short.
That's a good idea, because also like they like I don't want to be associated with these people, so they like I'm not gonna go, or I'm not gonna call myself like that name anymore, liberals or leftists or whatever. But I really like the videos. What about the which ones were the best and the worst encounters? I've seen like videos like I don't know, like the Democrats for Trump was a really nice one, for example, and well, there are so many worse situations. I would not call any. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have several videos with bad situations, but from the like, for example, Democrats for Trump was like a really good encounter. And do you have other ones like this, or some that
Yeah.
it got into your memory more like?
Yeah. So Democrats for Trump was a great one. And when it comes to the bad encounters, I think the Antifa at Laguna Beach was pretty intense. It was just a big crowd of people. They were getting really violent and crazy, and they were attacking someone, and the police were standing down, like off to the side. That was pretty crazy. There was a fight. I was in Hollywood Boulevard one time just doing Trump's Not That Bad, and there was just not related to me. There was just a bar fight that happened in the street, and it looked like it was insane. It was just like a third world country almost. It was just like people were fighting in the streets, knocking into cars. The cops weren't around. Everyone was running. But the good videos, like I
I was
definitely
going to
had some
correct
nice.
you. In the third world country, the police will not be around yet.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. That's true. They're not even
They
close.
come much after is everything is done. When
They go,
everybody's
oh,
dead
well,
or
what did we
done,
miss?
they come like, "Wow, you already dispersed here."
That's funny. And then when it comes to good videos, yeah, the Democrats for Trump was really one of my favorites. Basically, the story was that this guy was a Bernie supporter or Hillary supporter, then a Bernie supporter. Oof. And then he said he got invited to a Trump rally and decided to go because he thought as a Democrat he would get attacked and people would call him names and get kicked out. And he wanted to see the hate for himself. And when he actually ended up going to the rally, everyone was so nice to him. They knew he was Democrat. They brought him to the front. They gave him the best seat, and they treated him really well. And then ever since then, he's been bringing more Democrat, especially Democrat organizers, like local organizers, to these rallies. And they've been kind of waking up to seeing that Trump's not that bad. And then the organizers are like flipping, and then the people that they would speak with, they're kind of like turning towards Trump as well. So it's a really cool movement, really, really cool guy. And I just met him in front of the White House randomly that day when I was shooting a video.
Yeah, that video is really nice. I really enjoy it. Yeah, definitely the scary videos are the ones when we see like probably like people, the Antifa that at least that I recognize as someone that covers their face, and I already understand they probably have bad intentions because nobody needs to cover their face unless they are imagining to do something bad, you know. And I think the Antifa is something, it's a problem, you know, it is a problem in the United States. This, by their definition of what they are doing and what they are actually doing, you know, the entire cognitive dissonance of like a fighting system with violence for
Yeah.
avoiding violent systems. Anyways, it's like
Yeah.
I try to talk to people every time I face those things, but it is a trending thing on the left, and I think that's why the left kind of, it's melting down. Like you said, people don't want to even be called left anymore because the loud minority that are those people that will fight sexism with sexism and racism with more racism and try to fight a possible violent government with violence. Um, it brings a lot of the hot topics that you encounter in all those protests, and I love that it's so wide, the range of topics, and how people are so shallow on their like I believe this, and then your next question that is just like why you believe that, it's already empty. And it's like, guys, you putting all these efforts to come out to protest and you do not even know why. Wait, stay at home. Maybe that's why we're having corona, because
Yeah. Stay at home, quarantine.
the mainstream media is trying to make people stay at home and, you know, philosophize a little bit more, think hard, reflect about this, try to think about this subject a little bit harder.
It's so true. And then even with the videos, like, I can't really. People get mad at me sometimes, but it's like I didn't even say anything. Like I asked a basic question and then they say something crazy. That's not my fault, you know?
It is hilarious. I actually have a lot of fun watching. People should definitely check more Fleccas. So yeah, one of the very fun ones I've watched recently was like uh whatever Women's March or something like that. And it was a guy, I think, talking about the wage gap.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, the wage gap. And then you talk about how the wage gap is a myth and present him that what is the explanation for the wage gap. You know, that is just people that don't know what, do not understand the statistics and how to read it and how that actually is represented in reality. And the guy's like, I never heard of it.
Yeah.
And
He goes,
that's
I don't
it.
really want to
Here the
talk or
conversation's
whatever.
done.
Yeah. Conversation over. And he's mad at me, but like who's really the one who's kind of like screwing up here? Like all I said was like, well, what about the idea that it's comparing median wages or that kind of thing? And he's just like, he'd rather be with the group going downstream, nodding his head, everything's okay when they're heading towards a waterfall.
Yeah. I love that was I think it was Shuon had she has it still on her channel. It's the wage gap button. She like because people would always like my wage gap, and she would make like a button that would explain properly what the wage gap is, so she doesn't need to tell every time someone comes with this argument what it actually represents, what actually means. And yeah, we need to do that with a lot of little things. I've seen for example, the abortion ones, that also it is another thing that people rely to politicians to rule into our lives. And sometimes I just think of like, uh, I don't know, should we actually give people you know, the government, the state, let's say, the right to make those decisions for us, you know, in a lot of things. And so we should cut down the power of the government itself. Like abortion is a problem because people want to get it publicly done. Why don't you just decriminalize and then set a period that is okay to do, and people can do it privately. I'm very like a skeptic about the idea of government giving abortion in the public
Yeah,
system, for example. I think that should be more the discussion of like, should we even talk about this should be a right that people should have, you know
yeah.
and if it is a right, is the government the one responsible to give?
Mommy, open it.
We're gonna have Shiva all over the video.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
totally agree because it is one of those things where people just want, and then that's what Bernie's running on. They just want that helping hand from the government, that taking care of. Oh, free healthcare, free education, student loan debt goes away. It's like we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars. Like
Yeah,
that's going to
and
reshape
those
everything.
retrocessive policies, including this thing on like the debts on the school, it's one of the craziest things I have heard, because that is so unfair for everybody else that has paid
Yeah,
it. I'm okay with like, okay, let's stop doing it at all, not giving money.
and
Gonna
then
give
yeah,
money
it just
and
feeds back into the scam too because free education. It's like the schools, the colleges, like the college experience is not worth it. A lot of these colleges now are over $60,000. So what are people getting out of it? Like, why is that like such an important thing that everyone has? Like, I think we have to kind of go back to like we have to let some of these schools go out of business. I think they were almost like in a way that they were criminally like these debts like were not, I don't say criminally distributed, but like they're sharking these kids, 18 years old. You're signing a thing for 100 grand. Ugh, I don't know. Like it does not work. That model does not work. And then oh yeah, we'll give free education for everybody. It's like you're just going to feed the big government scam all over again. It seems like.
yeah, it feels like the government is always trying to catch people's money in some way, and that is another scheme of like, you have to put your kids in school, and because you don't want the schools to close, and we also want you guys to have this debt, so we're gonna cover part and put you in this scheme, and just make it like normalize it, and that's okay. I have a lot of ideas of like against this thing on like giving money to people to do things that they're supposed to do anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that is type of culture that you guys want to change the community around, your entire nation. It's something I talk in Brazil, because in Brazil we had all those populist government policies to help people, and we did not get financially better, economically speaking. We only got worse culturally, in fact. So because like when I was kid, I heard like we're like Brazilians, we're poor but we hard workers, and now we still poor. We're not hard workers anymore, because now there are people that actually refuse work to get benefits from the government. The government is giving so much money and gifts and benefits for people to be in misery, that people are choosing to be in the misery deliberately,
Wow.
like to like
Yeah.
refuse a job because I don't want to lose my benefit from the government, that if I don't have a job will give me this much money per month. And people don't think that this is a reality that would happen. They think this is a slippery slope of an argument against socialism. And the examples are down there. Like in Brazil, you can go and you see people talking about this on the street. This is a real problem. People leave the big cities to go live in small poor areas to get benefit from the government, then to work hard and get a better life. What drive them to do that? I don't know. It's just, I guess it's easier.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's like a downward trend. Like once you kind of bring in that type of government, then like your society will always just trend downwards towards that. And then if you add more freedom, it'll naturally, I think, trend upward. That's very interesting. That yeah, it's basically already played out. Like we can learn from that mistake.
I think it is all what we have seen, that it works in human lives in general, and politics, and not in economics. It's the demand and the need, and if you give incentives, people will behave in that way. So it's like
Yeah.
it's the idea of like he teach the guy how to fish, and he will, he will probably have a fish store after a year or 10, whatever. But if you keep giving him the fish, he will never go get it himself, and he might be praying or complaining, protesting for the fish, but he will not go get and fish himself. And it's an example in Brazil. We have benefits for more than a decade, and if you go to the first cities where those policies were implemented, the people, the population, the original population of the city, did not improve. The city probably got better economically because people consume more, and they imported a lot of people to work and get into the best jobs in there. But the population in general, if you do a deep analysis, they still poor financially and culturally. And that is a problem that Bernie or whatever who other politician that wants to give money and talk about government taking care of people's lives do. It's to promote this type of culture unhappily. I
Yeah.
hope United States do not get into this type of ideas and think that is just give money and we're gonna make it better. It's definitely not the way. So much other things to talk: gun control, taxation, yellow fever. I saw one girl, you were talking to her, and she's like talking about the problem with yellow fever.
Oh
I've seen
yeah.
matters online, like he written journalists talking about their own personal problems as being Asians and having a white husband. My husband is white, so like we can talk about yellow fever. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm victim of it. But yeah, I'm sorry. We are at hit our time, and I just wanted to say one thing, that I talked to Adam Kokesh from the Freedom and the Libertarian Party, United States. We talk about this on the off, with the camera off, but he told me, it was like, yeah, it's something strong. It's something. It's a good suggestion, né? and uh, and it was off of camera. But I was just thinking, and I wanted to share this with you. Why does Trump do not legalize weed in the United States?
I think he's going to. I think because I think hemp is now, he just took a lot of regulations off of hemp now. I think so. That's going to open up hemp and CBD and a lot, and I think it'll eventually get to legalization.
Yeah, if even Trudeau did last year here in Canada, I actually have to say that Trump should not leave that behind.
Maybe he'll do it right after Bernie. Maybe right after Bernie concedes and supports Joe Biden. Maybe then he'll say, "I legalize weed," and try and take a chunk of Bernie's people over.
Because that was a funny thing that Bernie actually came up with recently, and he bumped him up a lot. And I was like, when I talked to Adam, was before Bernie coming out with this, and I actually said it after or before the recording, and I was like, I don't know. I think this is actually a super strong move, because even people, I believe people will promise this as a campaign for the next election. And he was, oh my gosh, don't do that, because it's actually a really strong thing that, of course, Libertarian Party supports a lot. And but I actually think it's like, yeah, even if um, I don't think he would lose. That is the thing that we actually talked off camera. I don't think he would lose support for legalizing it. For
Yeah,
the
I don't think
criminalizing and
so.
legalizing weed in nationally United States, and he would definitely gain support. And just a week after our conversation, Bernie came with this out, and I was like, well, I think it is the thing that we're expecting Trump to do before the election,
Yeah,
and then I guess he will be elected for sure.
yeah,
I probably would like it even enter with the immigration process. I actually have just a visa to United
yeah,
States, but I would definitely even think about the immigration.
yeah. It'd be worth it. It'd be
And
fun.
yeah, so yeah, well, I would like to ask you about a lot of other opinions, on your opinions on some things, and maybe bring like Trump's ideas. But just to close, What do you think about Jeffrey Epstein? Why does everybody talk about Greta, climate change, you know, Russia collusion, all the other stuff, and nobody talk like Jeffrey Epstein just died, and everybody like, "Psh, stop. What is the thing? Is that funny? What is that?
It's very fishy. I don't know because he's like one. He should be one of the most protected prisoners ever. And then we hear the guards fell asleep and the camera stopped working. And there's two ways of looking at it for me. I think either these people that he was up against and had information on are so powerful that they're able just to go kill him and that's it, and like in our face just do it and everyone knows and we're just like, oh, gotta do nothing. Or this is a fun theory. Maybe he faked his death and he testified against everybody, and maybe they're gonna get in trouble, and that's like that was witness protection. I don't know.
Well, the weird thing that I think is like how is like okay, it's not just this fishy or everything around what happened to him and be like jumping into conspiracy theories, but what about everybody that is involved in the big scheme that was actually the hotel, the abusers, and young minors being abused in his properties? All these people are still alive. There is no reason to stop talking about his case and all the investigation and close the case if we still have the victims and the perpetrators of many crimes. I think that is what is fishy. It's like why we're letting this die is just because we have a lot of people to put in jail, a lot of people to go after, and how how
It's
the
crazy that
media
the
that's
media stopped
supposed to
talking about it.
focus on things like that, they are the ones that just let it die. They should be the ones curious, like because what I think is like I'm not a professional journalist. I'm a doctor. I'm a physician, and I was like, and maybe because I'm a physician and I'm curious about things and I'm always asking why and trying to find signs, we are kind of investigators and, little Sherlock Holmes. And I would expect journalists to be like that. And that's what brought me a little bit on the journalist because I'm like always watching you and other people. Normally, everybody that I have brought here so far on my channel or people that I admire, I am fan of, I probably will get into the time where I'm gonna have to start interviewing people that I don't ever actually know much or even disagree about what they say. But I believe the journalism is that it's like to be curious and go after things that make you think and question, and that is a great case. It was like it's so full of mysteries and so much to talk about still. All the people that were abused, all the people that need to be prosecuted, and they just like, wow, there is something else more interesting that is not that.
Yeah, and
Whatever.
it's not more interesting. So it makes you wonder, like, why is the media like? Do they have like the same? Like, why do they have like an underlying loyalty to keeping this quiet?
Yeah, it's really
Because the
fishy,
most
like you
interesting
said.
story is the Epstein story. Like, that's so interesting. And then they're gonna pretend, some other like the
I don't know.
virus
I think it
or
was the same period they jump on Greta and they made
yeah,
Greta hero and talk about this and play the two sides, the polarization of like science deniers and alarmists, like and have all this clash into the social level. I mean, like instead of make people question and ask about those, I'll make people fight in between then if climate change is a real issue or not.
mm-hmm.
And then the same thing we passed for like 2 years talking about Russia collusion and what is right, what is wrong, quid pro quo, and like all this is like, what are you guys like hiding? Don't see me.
Yeah,
No, you don't see me. Don't see. But
they're
I don't know.
keeping
It's
us
like
like
they are
busy with the
trying
public
to.
debate.
And now is the corona. Like, don't go out, don't socialize, don't even get encounters and talk about things. Just talk about corona. Stay home, scared, quiet. And I don't know. It's to harm the economy. It is to stop people from thinking, or to make people think more. I don't know. I don't think it has a purpose for the virus itself. But I think everybody should use the time to think a little bit about all these issues that mainly all these hot topics that we talked. Maybe people try to go online and talk more about abortion in a level of like, okay, what do you really want to do, instead of be like a pro-choice, pro-life. I always talk about, like, I think this is just so funny the way that they divide people into these two terms, because I am pro-choice and I am pro-life. So it's like it's hard to take a side when you put like that.
Yeah, and the everyday person is the same person we talked about before, who's just casually scrolling and like worried about themselves. That same person, they think like this is how I was too before I started looking into it. I used to be very, very pro-choice, and I used to think, oh yeah, like I'm a guy, it's a woman's body, she can do whatever she wants. I'm a guy, I shouldn't be involved, and it's just a clump of cells, it's a minor procedure. And then I actually looked at what an abortion looked like, a first term, a second term, a third term. I heard testimony from people who have done it, done the operation. And then I realized, I was like, okay, I don't want to personally sign up for this kind of thing anymore. It's not what I thought it was. It's not as simple as they say. It's not just, let a lady do what she wants with her body. I'm a guy. And that's what I think the big problem is too. It's the framing. Oh, it's like, are you for a woman's right to choose, or are you against women? And it's like, oh yeah, I'm for a woman's right to choose, because they don't want to have that argument or go down that road. But in reality, if people actually looked at what's going on, I think a lot more people who assume they're pro-choice and never really knew much about it, I think a lot more people would see like the cruelty that is involved in it, and kind of the craziness, and like maybe they'll be woken up to like, ooh, I didn't really know what I was signing up for. I think that if you want to be pro-choice, fine, but you have to kind of like know what the procedure looks like, what's actually going on. I think is a big problem with a lot of people that don't follow.
Yeah, I actually think it's a little bit what we said on, like, if the media, for example, will approach this subject, we should be more like detailing on like how those things work, and in the way talk, like both sides, but presenting the best side of their sides, like the best people, and not the straw manning, because like we understand, like, for example, I am pro-choice on the way that I don't agree with the person killing a I'm still pro-choice, but I'm not for someone killing a kid one day before coming out of the belly. Like there are leftists that gonna put that down. It's like, oh yeah, the woman has even before the birth, the woman can just kill the baby because it's just a fetus. It's not a baby yet. And as a physician, I am very much pro-choice, because I don't think the woman that doesn't want to have a kid, that she should be forced to, because I wanted to, and even with all the support and wanting, I know how hard it is. So I don't want to put other people in that situation if they don't want. And I put I try to wait that the life of the woman that is alive, it's more important than the life of the fetuses. But that's also why I'm not for public system giving to women as like as pills or condoms, because I think that should cost money and should cost a hard decision. And
Exactly.
it makes much easier if you say like, oh, you don't care about whatever growing in your belly. And I know, because I have had patients that actually got pregnant 7 times because they would just give the babies when they were born. Okay. And so she doesn't care about getting pregnant. And I understand there are people like that. So I understand we need to think of the worst people that will misuse the system. And I don't want this woman with having 7 pregnancies and coming to the system every single time and asking for abortion. So that is one of the things we need to regulate. And when we talk about abortion itself and political agenda for it,
Yeah.
I think we should talk about what if this happens, and what about these other people that will misuse the system. What are the other things, like, yeah, I understand that people are against abortion, don't want abortion, because there are so many other methods to avoid. And yes, for sure, contraceptives. But we also know that contraceptives sometimes cannot work, and that we have people that are raped, and people that have, not even talking about the women that have risk on their lives, because that is already set by our government, or at least generally, that yeah, if the woman's life is in risk, we're gonna choose for her life. But there are many other situations that I think people should be allowed to make an abortion. I actually
Hmm.
think people should be allowed to make abortion, and understand that's like the strong men of the people that are against abortion are like, it's sometimes it's like people are going to be walking on the streets pregnant, and then the government comes and cure babies. Like, definitely not what we're doing. It's like a woman that is pregnant and want to have an abortion, she should be allowed to take. And of course, everybody else that doesn't want, just don't do it. And
Yeah,
a
I see.
little thing that is a side against abortion is that people want to rule other people's lives, and I'm against that. So I will take the pro-choice side, because I think people should be served if they want to get, because we know they will get if they really want it. Even if there is not in the business, there's no business open to do that, they are going to go to the friend or whoever, nurse and pharmacist, and get you know
Mhm.
in a way that sometimes is even worse for the health system. So
Yeah, I think
because
there's
there's
like
so
an
many people try
aspect
to
to
do
it.
it by themselves at home, and then end up in the hospitals with worse cases and hurt themselves really bad. And yeah, it's a huge problem. It has a lot to be talked about.
Yeah, there is a lot there. I think that there is something to be said, like you mentioned before, about like the economy of a group, but also the culture of a group. And there's like two different ways of kind of looking at it. Like there's a culture and social, or more like monetary and numbers based. I think with like abortion, if it's celebrated so much, and it's because like the left right now is always celebrating it and be proud of it. Like I
Yeah.
think that there needs to be, I think shame in culture, a little bit of shame in culture is not a bad thing. I think
Mhm.
traditional values historically, people think it's like a patriarchy, but in reality, it's like what has traditionally worked, and there are gender roles and stuff. So I think with abortion, like once it gets into the government's handing them out, you can get one for free, like no big deal. You can just have a quick operation, and no big deal. Everyone's cool with it, and blah blah blah. Taxpayers pay for it. I think that leads to like that downward trend that we talked about, like with socialism. You know what I mean? Where like
Yeah.
life is looked at in a
But
very
maybe
light
that is
way.
the answer. Maybe you actually gave the answer. Maybe it's like not fulfill the leftist agenda for abortion, because that to abort to be just pro-choice blindly and just do whatever with my body whenever I want and kill the baby just the day before the birth. We should not fulfill this agenda, because that is what gives the shame on abortion. Because abortion should not be shameful. Abortion should be something that, wow, we did in a case that was necessary, in a need, And abortion should be something that a woman that tried other methods of contraception and did not want a kid end up pregnant, and we should not force her to have abortion, to have the baby, and then she can get an abortion without being stigmatized as doing
Mhm.
something so bad. If abortion is not commercialized, that is like, yeah, just come and get your abortion, maybe with the stigma of it would actually reduce as well, and I think
Interesting.
that should be the nuance. I think maybe we should walk to the middle ground to
Yeah,
make
that's fair. Because I think one
you
side
know
wants no
not be something
abortions.
bad, because I think in English it's something interesting, because it's more about language as well, that the natural abortion is not called abortion, it's called miscarriage. But we nobody that is pro-choice talks about, again, debates the arguments of life, saying like, no, it's not that life starts in the contraception, because we have like 15% of abortion in the first weeks, that the woman doesn't even know that she's pregnant, and she can have a natural abortion that's called miscarriage, and that is natural. So abortion is something that is natural to happen, and not all the fetuses are viable, even some that are pretty well formed. Sometimes they have a few hours or days of life, and there is a lot to talk about this. Like, I
Yeah.
think people just throw that thing like to really like you said, like scare people, or even talk about the term as like some stigma. And I think the abortion should be destigmatized, like in that way.
Yeah, I think that is would be possible, but I think right now the reason it's not is just because of so many of the abortions are from inconvenience. So it's
Yeah,
true that there is times where maybe there's like a conversation to be had, or there is a situation where maybe like there is a middle ground. Because I think one side wants no abortions at all, the far version of the other side wants abortions to the day before, and maybe the reality is a middle ground to start, and then let culture kind of dictate which direction the pendulum goes again after that. But I think right now, I think over 90% of abortions are just like the mother's not ready to have a child, whether that's financially, in school, whatever. And I think that is kind of like the problem, where it's like, if
Yeah,
abortion
yeah.
was very rare, fine, and then we can work on the stigmatization. But right now, I think it's justifiably stigmatized in that 9 out of 10 people are just like, "Ooh, I'm 19. I don't want to have a kid right now." And like, yeah, you don't. But maybe if you didn't have that option out of convenience, maybe that then you take it more seriously. People would value sex more. People would be less casual. Men, in
Oh
a way,
yeah.
would not be
No, I
rewarded
think
for
actually
casual
what is
sex.
important is the sexual education. I think the government should take out the role of giving the abortion and legalize in the way that it is okay to do until this period, and set it as after that will be punished, like the mom and doctor or whoever is involved, if it's a minor, put her parents into problems. I don't know specifically, because we already had said that the government is taking care of this. But actually, I think should be like something private, because those parents that actually gonna go to the government and ask for abortion, maybe they would give a better sexual education to their kids and teach them to use contraceptives if they imagine that they would have to pay for the abortion instead of to have to get from the government, and that would change people culturally. The entire sexual education with government, schools, and families and their private lives, it's really difficult to talk, I think. And even for doctors nowadays to talk to kids, you have to have the parents. So I think it needs to be like doctors and government put together something to present to the parents, and then the parents present to the kids as a sexual proper education to try to reduce the pregnancy and sexual disease for sure. And then the government can take out its roles to, like, okay, if you guys don't educate properly, you guys have to pay. Give the doctors the right to do in between a few weeks of the pregnancy, and make it expensive.
Yeah.
So the parents will think that they don't want to pay for many abortions, that they want to educate their kids to use preservatives, to avoid pregnancy. And we're not gonna. That's all. Like every time we talk about this, it's like it's a huge spectrum of like small levels of authority, because it's like, is the government taking care of people and the parents taking care of their children? It's all about authority, and you need knowledge to make decisions. And I think what is missing sometimes is like, yeah, the government should not be trying to rule this part, and the parents should rule more inside their house, to avoid those problems that end up going back to the government. So
Yeah, we
it's a
need
bunch of
stronger
people
family
with,
units at the
yeah,
end of the day.
the freedom is difficult, because freedom comes, to have more freedom comes more responsibility. So the government will help less, and people will have to make better decisions, and so they will have to be prepared for that. And that's what we actually not doing when the government takes care of the people too much. People stop thinking, people stop doing stuff by themselves, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always a risk to kind of give more freedom and expect more, because then there's more to lose. But I think the people in historically, they rise to the occasion, and the more freedom I think will be received in a good way.
Yeah, I always talk about this a little bit on the guns control, because I was like, I am for gun control, but I am more for the gun freedom, because I think people should have the freedom to have the guns, to make the choice, and even to make the choice to. Shiva, you're pretty loud. I need you to just take a little bit slower, okay? And then mommy can finish here. I'm sorry, I'm over the time. I know. You go. You want to show him the chicken? Okay, show him. Show the chicken.
Whoa,
Bye bye.
pretty cool.
Go. Mommy's gonna go play soon. Oh, you're gonna leave the rabbit here. Okay.
I'm over my bunny.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go there, and mommy's gonna finish. I swear. Go. Yeah. So yeah, the gun control, for example, is like give people the freedom, the right to have the guns, and they will pay if they use it. We already have the laws to put people in jail if they kill someone. It's ridiculous the way that we keep discussing over like the laws and over things that seem to be talked already.
And it's a similar thing we saw with the other with the coronavirus. It's like the media scares the people into the local governments, like, oh, we have to take action to like subdue this fear, this feeling of fear. What do? We have to pass something. And it's just like, it's just like, oh, you guys are just reacting to fear because the media is scaring everyone. Like that's the same. It's like the same cycle over and over. The media scares, local government reacts, and I think that's the same thing what happened with Trump and the spying too. Like the Steele dossier, like they leak some fake stuff to the media, and then the government's kind of like, ooh, like should we spy on this guy? Like people are talking about all these things as ties to Russia, and almost like that's I think why Trump says media is the enemy of the people, because in every way that same cycle of fear leads to reactions in government that are not what's best for the people.
Yeah. I don't know why they actually hate Trump so much, but I think it's more just because he was the opponent of Hillary Clinton and seems
Yeah.
to have like a lot connected. CNN and Hillary Clinton, all this mystery behind. I don't know how they became so rich and wealthy, and and it seems like a lot of things don't make sense. And of course, there's a lot of thing behind that would sound like conspiracy theory, but I do think she is like a pro-war, different from what people have accused Trump. That would be a big war, would be terrible because of Trump behavior and everything. And he has showed like a very peaceful government and making deal and doing good deals with people that other governments did not manage to do. And it's funny because nobody gives him this credit. This is really sad.
Even the other day, they signed an agreement to end the war in Afghanistan, and the media doesn't even talk about it.
Yeah, I with Korea, with Israel, with all the problems with Afghanistan, with all those things, I actually think it's strange because if it was Obama, we would have like such a big deal. Actually, Obama actually got the Nobel Prize of Peace, and that's kind of weird because so much war that he actually signed, so many bombs that he actually signed, and he has not done peace close to what Trump has done to go meet Kim Jong Un and then do the deal with Israel and now Afghanistan. And we know that if it was anybody else, would be just so focused on the media. And for Trump, it's like no credits at all.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but I think it's also going to be their downfall, kind of too, because the media keeps focusing on Trump because they hate him so much, and they put him under a microscope. And now we're kind of seeing like the inner workings of the swamp and like the bad things that happen that are not just Trump, every president. And like their intense focus will actually expose their lies, I think, faster. Like the increased engagement that they're demanding Americans have in politics will actually lead to more people waking up to the truth. So it's almost like it's an ugly cycle, but it will, I think, even out in the end.
Yeah. Uh, I'm sorry, I took you too long and
No, it
we
looked
all
great.
over time, but it's just like so much to talk and it's so much fun. Thank you very much. And should we finish right now? I
That
will,
sounds good to me. It was a good chunk.
yeah,
We can
I
do
will
this again
finish
too
this
some other
record.
time.
I'll
What'd you
finish
say?
this. Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry. No, no, you can. I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, and I was really happy to be on. It was a great time. Good talking to you. We can do this again soon sometime too.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I would love it. Yeah, we can keep updating sometimes.
Yeah,
That sounds amazing. How to find Fleccas Talks and how to follow you in all your platforms.
definitely. So on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Fleccas, Fleccas, and on Facebook and YouTube, it's Fleccas Talks. So those are the places to find it. Mostly YouTube. I think YouTube or Instagram would be a good place to see the videos, especially.
Very cool.
Yeah,
With
very
my
cool.
wooden spoon. And I can't wait for getting my wooden spoon and my merchant. I actually have bought some, but I always like to make other appearances with my new shirts of the channels that I support and like. And please, people, go check Austin Fletcher, Fleccas Talks. Really, really, really cool. Very nice videos. And you guys gonna love it. It's hilarious. It's a lot of fun. A lot of facts. There are some videos that he presents, but other cuts with other videos and stuff. And thank you very much. And thank you for coming and
Thank you for
watching. And
having me. Thank you. That was fun. Thank you, Fanny.